You've had Wendy's Nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new Saucy Nugs. Take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose from flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, and garlic parmesan. Of course, the spicy versions of all those, which I highly, highly recommend, or the spicy ghost pepper if you're a real heat seeker. 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a hold away to nug, it's got to be Wendy's. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Big guest today. Big Cat from Pardon My Take, the biggest podcast in the world. Definitely the biggest sports podcast, Ari, but I think we learned it's also the biggest in the world, depending on the day.
Yeah, no, we're coming for them, but it might be a longer journey. You know what I mean? Like we thought we were on their heels, but we're gonna find out.
Yeah,
it's gonna take.
We learned some things. I might have gotten sunned. I might have gotten little Boyd patted on the head just a little bit, but that's okay. You learn. When you're swimming with the sharks, you gotta figure this stuff out.
The best part about it is the journey, my friend. You know what I mean? Like we're working at it. We're getting bigger. And halfway through this first season together again, I feel pretty good about the direction that we're in. So, listen, I've preached, and we're going to hear a lot about this on the show later with Big Cat, about one of the merits of the 4-team field, which is demanding excellence from people in order to get in. I'd be a hypocrite if I thought that I wanted the standard to change. Like when we finally make that 4-team field, it's going to be an accomplishment because we earned it, not because somebody gave it to us.
They're coming after you, Pod Save America. Yeah.
I mean, once we get through the election, I think we'll be good.
I think so too. I think they're getting the bump from that. That's what it is. It's not anything else. All right, before we get to Big Cat, because we have another big star who's chimed in on college football. You saw him. You saw him at the Georgia-Texas game. The Minister of Culture for the Texas Longhorns, Matthew McConaughey, has said his piece on the Texas fans throwing bottles on the field, which, by the way, got them what they wanted, got a call overturned, which I'm with Kirby Smart and Josh Brooks. Kirby Smart, of course, the Georgia coach, Josh, the Georgia athletic director, who are like, hey, that's not a great precedent to set. Like, if you want them to change the call, I actually wrote a column about this. Like, there's a way to do this, maybe like the NFL does with the expedited replay, because they've all got the officials have a communication system in their heads now, and not implanted in their brains, but they have the headsets. And if you watch the NFL games, there's certain plays where New York just says, hey, y'all messed that up. Here's how you fix it. Fix it. Like, I'm not saying that the command center should say, you got that call wrong, change it. But the command center can very quickly say, hey, you guys need to have a conference because when this replay shows up on the board, you're going to look real bad. And then they have the conference. But Matthew McConaughey is trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again at the University of Texas, that the field is not sullied by Dasani water bottles and whatnot. So here's his message. Longhorn Nation, and specifically our DKR student section, MOC McConaughey coming at you here. First off, you were electric Saturday night when we hosted Georgia. Bravo. Let's continue to bring it. Even though our Horns didn't get the W, you created a measurable home field advantage. But let's get real about the bottle bombing field glitch we had. Not cool. Bogey move. Yeah, that call was BS, but we're better than that. Longhorn Nation knows how to show up, show out like no other, and still keep our class. So going forward, let's clean up that kind of BS and leave that behind us for good. We have to shake hands on that. Next up, November 9th, when the Gators come to town, let's make sure they feel the heat, can't hear the play calls, and burn their timeouts. But remember, nothing hits our field except that Texas fight. Till then, root hard and hook 'em. McConaughey. All right.
I got to tell you,
Matthew McConaughey impression.
Good. No. I didn't know you were going to do that. And I was actually thinking to myself, he's actually doing a really good job at this, because if I tried it, it would have been an absolute disaster. So I think that you hit the vibes of that really well. Like, bravo to you too, my friend.
He's more of a vibes guy than an accent guy.
Because it's just more
cadence than
Lincoln.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just imagining myself cruising around in a Lincoln through the Los Angeles night, like
I
maybe
like
up the PCH.
Matthew McConaughey's like baseline level as a human being is just like perpetually on like 5 milligrams of gummies at all times, even if he doesn't take it. Like, I think that's just like how he feels at all times, just like vibed out and just like relaxed. He does make me want to drive a Lincoln. So kudos to you for the impression. I do find it very funny that this loose affiliation with Texas and like the statement coming out there like that, like from a position of authority. Like, is anybody taking this guy's position or anything of that nature seriously, or is this just a big like laughing thing? Like, what is this?
I actually think it might have been the best way to address it. That's what I'm debating.
Yeah, bogey
back
move
and forth in my head. Like, because if Chris Delconte, the AD, comes and look, if you've ever met Chris Delconte, it's a different vibe than Matthew McConaughey, but he's a dude you want to party with too. But coming from him, it might sound a little too official. Like, hey, don't do that, kids. And coming from Matthew McConaughey, it's like, hey, man, that's not cool, man. We're all cool here. We don't need to harsh the buzz.
Yeah. I like my favorite line in that, Andy, was bogey move. Like, I just bogey move. Like, would anybody say that? I can't
figure out if that means he really said it or if there was some intern in the office going, what would Matthew McConaughey say in this instance?
But like, if you are wondering what like the minister of culture does, like, this is the perfect thing, right? Police statements when things go awry, when somebody wouldn't want to read an official statement. Like, if you just do it in the McConaughey vibe, like, all he's saying is, hey, let's cut that out, man. And like, it kind of hit. Like, I don't know if it kind of will. I don't know if it'll work.
And he calls the call BS, which is great because Chris Delconte can't do that. He'll get fined. But Greg Sankey's not fining Matthew McConaughey for calling the call BS.
Do you imagine if Texas got a fine because of Matthew McConaughey's harsh words with the referees? Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And I thought about this a lot this season. Like, what? I know games are long, and I know that we're trying to, get more action and less breaks. But like, what is the harm of being able to just challenge a penalty call? Like, to let the refs go back and look at the play, look at the action, and like, in that moment, if
probably because they never stop. But if you limited it to one
a game, you get one a game, and you don't throw it out there. If it's a 10-yard penalty in the first quarter, it's for moments like that.
Yeah,
where it's a pivotal. Like, I mean, you can go back the last 5 years and think of penalties that altered the course of big games that might have gone another way had it not. It doesn't have to just be turnovers to me. I think if you give everybody one penalty challenge or allocate the penalty to their already allotted challenge total, I think that should be fine. Like, why does it have to be a turnover or a catch? Why can't it be anything that you don't think went right?
It's funny because there's so many judgment calls and they say those are judgment calls, but it's also judgment calls.
Why does anything have to be a judgment
with the things
call?
You actually can review on video? So what's the difference?
Why does it matter? Yeah, like, why does anything like
did this ball cross this line?
Yeah,
is a judgment call, especially if you watch the Miami Virginia Tech game. No, I think this is not a bad idea.
And the entire point of challenging is that you do not trust the judgment of that call, regardless of what it is. Like, that's what it is. So, like, if you don't like a PI or you think that somebody fumbled it or there wasn't a catch or anything that you think can change the game, the coach should have the ability, in my opinion, to throw a flag out onto the field and challenge a ruling, regardless of what type it is.
If the white hat referee had gone under the hood and watched the play that led to that call, he would have come back to the person who called it and said, hey, I think you missed this. This is either nothing or offensive pass interference. So let's decide, is it going to be nothing or offensive pass interference, but we're going to get it right. No, I think that'd be fine. Like I said, I would love for the command center to be able to buzz in and just say, within because basically the command center reviews every play as they're happening. So whoever was at the command center saw that play and knew immediately that they'd messed up the call. So within 5 seconds of it, that person can say, hey, you messed that up. You guys are going to want to talk about that. And it's not saying change the call. It's saying get together and talk about it. Steven in the chat points out the PI challenge in the NFL failed miserably. He's right about that. It did. So I don't know.
Too, a lot of the stuff is very subjective. Like there are times and when you're watching the NFL, especially, if there's a penalty and then they bring in the ref analyst or the rules expert, like a lot of times he'll say something that the analysts on the set don't agree with too. Like, I mean, sometimes things are just bang, bang, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think, like, if you're worried about the precedent of throwing bottles on the field, giving refs enough time to reconsider something, then the way to stop that, because people are going to keep throwing stuff onto the field. Like, I don't care what the minister of culture says. If people think that like there was a terrible call and they could delay the game for 10 minutes, they're going to do it again. Give coaches an opportunity to at least throw the flag and try it. That's my solution. If you don't like it, like there's some people here in the chat that are making a good point about there's never been an era of college football where the refs have to be 100% perfect. Bad calls are part of the game. You have to overcome them. If that's right,
they're part
that's
of
fine.
Sports in general. Like they have.
So like if you want to accept that, I can, but
I don't want it to become like the last 2 minutes in the NBA now. Like if you've watched like an NBA playoff game, the last 2 minutes are interminable because everything gets challenged. Everything goes to video replay. It sucks as a viewer.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, but what would you rather do? What would you rather do, Andy? Would you rather a game take 15 minutes longer, or would you rather feel like the results messed up? Like I would rather just take the time.
As the viewer, like if it's my team, I want them to get it right. As the viewer, I just want to get on with the damn game and finish it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like there are a lot of people on listening to the show that are fans when it comes to their team. Like, listen, I'm trying to think of the one call of a game that I covered that blows my mind, or doesn't blow my mind, blew everyone else's mind.
I mean, the Ohio State Miami national title game is
that'd be a good one.
Classic
I wasn't
example.
there. I was 12. But the one that I covered was the 2019 Ohio State Clemson Fiesta Bowl, where
the targeting call.
The targeting call was one, but the catch fumble in the third quarter, I think it was,
that
Ohio State scooped and scored. I can't remember who the receiver was off the top of my head, but they scooped and scored, and then they reversed the call, even though it was clearly a fumble. I think they actually reviewed that and got it wrong. So, like, you know, who knows? I'm not saying it's the magic bullet that like solves all the issues.
The targeting call in that game, I remember because I actually talked to Steve Shaw, who's
we were there together, remember?
Yeah, he's the national coordinator of officials. He was at the game, and I talked to him in the tunnel after the game, and he took me through the whole mechanics of the targeting call. And I went back and looked at it, and I was like, oh man. Like I wrote a column saying they actually did this by the letter of the rule, but man, they need to fix the rule. So
yeah, I mean, I guess the good news here in the Texas game is that they arrived at the correct call. Like I would rather the pandemonium result in correct call than pandemonium resulting in grab ass that alters the game. So like I think that at least from that standpoint, and the team that it went against won, and it didn't, like, I don't feel like the game is tainted. Like the last thing on earth anybody wants is to lose a game or to watch a game and feel like the result is messed up because of something the refs did.
Yeah, Georgia still went on that drive afterward that put the game away.
Oh yeah.
So it actually set up Georgia for its defining moment of the season so far. But you still shouldn't be able to get a call changed by throwing trash on the field. Now, speaking of bad calls, Jim Mora believes that a call should have extended his team's game against Wake Forest. Jim Mora is the Connecticut coach, former UCLA coach. And remember, Connecticut is a football independent. They were playing Wake Forest. There was a play at the end of the game. Looked like PI. They didn't call it. Wake ends up beating UConn by 3. Here's Jim Mora on the call.
I'm proud of them for fighting back. We've got to make sure that we put ourselves in a position where it doesn't come down to one play where an ACC team makes a horseshit call against an independent. And that's up to us to play better at the start of the game so it doesn't come down to that call, which was holding and PI. And that's what I told them. And we'll come back and we'll fight. So it's on us to play better earlier. but it'd sure be nice if it was a level playing field. Questions, anyone?
Yeah, Jim, I mean, obviously the way it came down is not.
Yeah, it was a hold and a PI. Hold and a PI.
Did you get an explanation from anyone?
Here's your explanation. ACC versus independent. There's your explanation, Dom. It's pretty simple. All right. Thanks, everyone.
I love how they try to turn the conversation. And he's like, nope, this is it. You can say that if you're not in a conference. Like, he ain't getting fined by anybody.
Yeah, who
Jim
fines
can be as
him?
mad as he wants about what Jim Mora said. He can't do anything about
Who's
it.
the minister of culture at UConn? I'm trying to think. Who could it be?
Danny Hurley.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of. Would it be Kemba Walker?
Oh, Kimball Walker's a great minister of culture. Absolutely.
Yeah, that I always feel like if I were a coach, like, listen, I'm insufferable on this show. I get it. But like, if I had all the money in the world, like, I would be a loose cannon. Like, if I were on a college football team, they would be the person, or I would be the person that the SID does not bring out to talk to the reporters. Like, I would just be like, because it's a game, it's fun, and you're allowed to be mad. Like, I don't understand. And I mean, I guess I do understand, but I wish that there was a world where people could just share how they were feeling, because the raw emotions of things is what makes sports great. Like, if you think you got messed up on a call, you should be able to speak freely about that. It gives us more to write about. It gives us more to talk about. Sports are about entertainment. Like, don't people want to know what people actually think? Like, I don't know why it's so bad. Like, I know you can't criticize the officials because they're, keeping and maintaining the integrity of the football game. And you don't, like, people already think that there's this, like,
people already think it's rigged. So that
people already, like, there is an alarming amount of people who think that Miami is just undefeated because the refs are in their pocket. Like,
because the ACC is saying we want two teams in the playoffs, so you got to keep them on it. I don't think that at all. I will go to my grave saying the officials are doing the best they can, and it's a hard job.
Yeah, but like, even like
at
the end of the Miami game on Saturday, the end of the Louisville game where Cam Ward was throwing the football and there was a scoop and score that would have brought Louisville back into the game late in the fourth quarter, and then they overturned it. It's like everybody was like, oh, there's Miami again getting a break. It's like he clearly was throwing, like, I don't feel like they've gotten any of their calls wrong. Like, it'd be one thing if they kept winning because of bad reviews, but like, I feel like every time they've reviewed a Miami call, they've gotten it right. So like, I don't know, like, why people.
There are gonna be a lot of people who disagree with you on the Virginia Tech when I tend to agree with you. I don't think the Cats survived the ground, but there are gonna be a lot of people who don't believe it, and a lot of people just want to believe everything's rigged. Like, hey, we got a lot of viewers on YouTube. I would venture that a significant portion of the people who watch YouTube for most of their content are
in other
worlds
worlds
a good conspircy theory. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. And I do love conspiracy theories. Like, I think going down the rabbit hole and wondering what if is like, I mean, if it came out that like Miami is undefeated because the refs are in the ACC's best interest in trying to get Miami to the playoff, that would be like the biggest story ever, right? Like, I understand like the thought of wanting
it'd be like Tim Donaghy. I mean, that was a big story. There was an NBA ref who was putting bets on games. Like, that's a huge story.
That was electric. But like, also at the end of the Miami Cal game, Miami took a few really bad penalties that could have lost them the game too. Like, it wasn't like they were just olaying them to the victory. Like, Miami, didn't they have like a crazy holding call at first and goal?
Kevin in the chat, very presumptuous, Andy. My presumption that officials are doing the best they can and trying to do a good job. I actually think that's the baseline feeling. And if you want to believe the conspiracy, like I said, you can. There are tons of YouTube videos for you to watch about everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need to take people at face value. And in this case, having met some of these college football officials, like, I don't understand why they would do it, because all you do is get yelled at. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Why anyone would subject themselves to this.
I don't know if you've ever sat, like, just coincidentally next to an official on an airplane just because you're going to the city.
I have
like 3 times in my life. And these dudes are like watching tape. Like, they won't drink. Like, I mean, like, they take this stuff really seriously. And like, I know a guy here who is like en route to becoming a Big 12 official or trying to become one. And like, I've asked him about it, and it's just like the most important thing to him is to be correct. Like they're good people. Like, and it's an impossible situation, and I get it. There's 9 million or 10 million people watching a football game. Half of them want Georgia to win. Half of them want Texas to win. You're obviously, you know what I actually thought? Like, I was watching the game, and then they zoom into fans on the field, and or like fans in the stadium during the play, and people are like, "Oh, come on!" And it's like right after the play ended, it's like you are literally 500 feet away. There's no way that you're in a position to like make a call from that far away. But people just automatically think the play was what it was based on their rooting interest. And like whenever I get called bias, somebody Instagram DM'd me the other day and called me bias. Who do you think is more likely to be biased, the ref or the person in the stands wearing the colors of the team that got screwed? Like it's just like that's just the way it is. Yeah. So I don't know,
but people don't know what the word bias even means anymore. Like I'll write a very strongly worded opinion column.
Oh yeah,
and I'll get tweets from me. Finally, an unbiased take on this. I'm like, it's extremely biased. It just happens to agree with your worldview.
Yeah.
Ari, apparently I got Kevin's meaning wrong. He said I was presumptuous for meaning all the YouTube audience is conspiracy theorists. Listen, there's a lot of money in conspiracy theories on YouTube, so I'm sure there's a lot of people who love them. But
we should not actually have a segment of like top 5 most believable conspiracy theories across the board for a random offseason ranking if you want to go down that road.
100%, because we'll do numbers on
Can I share one funny one real quick before we go? I know we have to.
We got to get to Big Cat, but sure.
I know. Somebody posted a prompt on Twitter that said, give us your number one conspiracy theory that's actually low stakes and you think is true. And somebody wrote that Disney created the movie Frozen and called it Frozen so people would stop Googling if Walt Disney's body was frozen. And I thought that was hilarious. Okay, sorry.
I've never seen that one before, but that is amazing.
Yeah,
it is amazing. So we are not trying to cash in on conspiracy theories here. We want you to watch our YouTube channel at the On3 Sports YouTube channel. We want you to subscribe to this podcast, leave a 5-star review, because we want you to like this. We want you to do it just because you like it. And we're trying to be the number one podcast in the world. And that's one thing we learned visiting with our pal Big Cat, because I think we've been aiming too low. I think I didn't have my sights set high enough. So we're going to work on that. But first, before we get to Big Cat, let me tell you about Huel. This is my breakfast this morning. This right here in this bottle, complete nutrition. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, 7 grams of fiber, 400 calories, and I know exactly where they're coming from. I know exactly what's in it, and I know exactly what I'm putting in my body, which is exactly how every day should start. And this has worked out great with my family, because my wife will grab a Huel, take it to work for lunch. My son, who's playing football and very busy, he'll pound one before he goes to school. It's a great product. The world's number one complete nutrition. And now if you use the promo code STAPLES, you get 15% off your order. So go to HUEL.com. That's HUEL.com. 15% off your order with the code STAPLES. And oh, by the way, with that order, you can get the Huel t-shirts. Some of the greatest workout shirts you can get. Just putting that out there. So HUEL.com. Use the code STAPLES for 15% off. All right, it is time for Big Cat, who teaches
roasted me for 15
me a
minutes,
lesson, and then teaches Ari a lesson. We are honored to be joined by a very, 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 I'm doing his bit and I shouldn't be doing that, but Big Cat from Pardon My Take. I do have a question for you, Big Cat. I don't know if you've looked at the most recent Apple podcast charts, but do you feel us breathing down your neck?
I can't say that I have. Where are you guys right there?
So right now, as of today, as we're recording this, Simmons is ahead of you guys. I don't know why, because your show is the best in the country. But he's 1, you're 2, the Kelseys are 3, and we are 4. So
So, all right.
And
look,
neither of us is dating Taylor Swift.
I didn't want you to put me in the spot. I don't look at the podcast charts. If you look at top episodes, that's what I go off of, because we've been around.
I don't want to hear that.
We've been around
we're nowhere near that.
Yeah, we've been around for so long that I don't think there's anything we can do to, like, change the charts, because they're kind of static. But top episodes were it's basically everyone's brain is broken, the election's coming. Everyone's brain is broken, the election is coming. Israel versus Palestine, then us for top episodes today.
I love that. We're like, hey, we're coming up on the sports charts, and you're like, well, here's where we are in the world.
Yeah,
chart.
we're literally just competing with Donald Trump. So I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I think I should take it as a compliment that whenever someone pops on the charts, they like tweeted us. But yeah, I just look at the top episodes, not to burst bubbles. But I mean, you guys have been crushing.
We are.
Yeah,
we are playing Alabama, and we're Wisconsin in this matchup, right?
Oh, well,
right. Is that what it is?
You went up 3-0, and then I came in and I was like, well, guys, that's not how it's gonna go. I was gonna say though, I am so happy you guys are back doing a podcast. When I saw you guys at our tailgate at Wisconsin, Alabama, I was like, I missed both of you guys together. So I'm a listener, and I'm part of the downloads. So I love what you guys do, and I'm happy that it's worked out that you guys are back together.
We are going to keep on building so that we can compete with geopolitical conflicts. That's the goal. So
this is the point in the season. It's basically like whenever August rolls around, the fantasy football podcasts pop. Right now is that time for all of the political podcasts. They're just going crazy. This is their best time of year. They're just going to be able to get everyone panicked, not really say anything, and people will tune in because they want to feel better.
Yeah, we're on the up and up right now. We're like in that weird spot where, everybody was fired up for college football, and now teams are losing, and people are getting less excited about college football if their teams are losing. And now we're just going to ride the wave up forward.
Yes. Well, not to hijack your show, but you know what will do good for your show is the 12-team playoff, which Ari could not have been more wrong about. He's a fucking idiot.
Are we gonna do this right now? You want to start it off right now?
Yeah. Why when we started off, a guy who gets paid to talk about college football was against a tournament, a bracket that includes more college football teams. How does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I guess we're going to start this off this way. Do you want me to start from the beginning, or do you know all the talking points?
I know a lot of your talking points. They all suck. So go ahead. Just, play the hits.
Yeah, well, no, you know what the thing is that, like, I guess from a business standpoint, like, the idea that I have is wrong, right? Like, you want more people to be involved because then more people listen to the show.
Correct.
And more people. So, like, yeah, I guess we could placate to fans a little bit more about their odds of winning the national championship, even though they probably can't.
I guess we could give customers more of what they want.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just a bad businessman, really, like, is all it is. It's kind of like when it's like having a Rolex and then everybody has one, then having the Rolex isn't special anymore. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay. But what does it matter if a couple other people get a Rolex when what you're looking for at the end? I don't even know what's higher than a Rolex, but that all that matters is the championship, right? So who cares if more people have a Rolex?
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I guess it's just like you have to be in a position where you have to expand your brain and allow teams that aren't in the elite class to talk in the same class as a national champion, right? Like, and I think you're the perfect person to think this, because Wisconsin probably would be the biggest beneficiary of this system, because they have always, before the last few years, I should say, been in that 9 to 13 range, right? And it's like, that's exactly where the Wisconsins of the world are. So, like, I understand why you would want that. But, like, I also feel like you personally would have loved making the 4-team field in a way that this won't compare to. So I kind of feel like you're even wrong.
Disagree.
So if there are no 11 seed, that's going to feel just as good for you as being the 4 seed in the 4-team
I don't care.
era.
Getting in the playoffs is all that matters. And here's the problem that you missed, Ari. You are applying the 12-team playoff to 5-6 years ago college football, when I would have probably agreed, because there was only 3 teams that could win the championship every single year, and there was probably only 2. College football is completely flattened now. The NIL transfer portal, like there are more than 3 teams now that could win that could win the national championship. There are a lot of teams that could win a playoff game now. So it's way more flat. I think it's going to continue to get flat. Everyone who said the NIL and transfer portal is going to just make the rich richer, it did the opposite. And that's why I think we're in the middle of one of the best college football seasons we've had in a long time. And nothing about the playoff has ruined the regular season for me. If you watched Oregon, Ohio State, and were thinking during that, well, this doesn't really matter because both teams are going to be in the playoffs, you're a loser. You're a loser who will never be happy in life.
So this is I'm happy you brought that up, Big Cat, because I have had a crisis personally, and Andy's just sitting there just loving this. Look at his face.
This is like therapy for me. I'm so happy right now
because everybody likes to gang up on me about it, and I'm like used to it. I've got the calluses. If we get to a world where every single year 15 teams legitimately are good enough to win the national championship, then I will lay my sword down. And I have had a hard time accepting that because I have grown up and was forged in the fire where there are 5 teams who have a roster who are built to win it, and everybody else is just kind of playing along. So if last year's Michigan and Washington national championship is the beginning of the norm and not a weird year, and in 4 or 5 years from now, the 8 seeds winning the national championship aren't just Alabama with 2 losses, and we actually do have an Iowa State or a BYU or a Wisconsin or a Penn State or a team that's, in tier B playing for and winning national championships, then bigger, better. You are right. You nailed it on that. Coming from a place where in most years of the 4-team field, you could only find 2 or 3 teams at most that could do it.
Right.
So from your standpoint, you saying that, like, I love debating about this. We've done it quite a bit. But if the 11 seed can win the national championship, then we should have this.
And if they can't, but wait, if they can't, why wouldn't you still have it? Because it still matters for an 11 seed to get into a playoff and potentially win a playoff game. That is a monumental thing for the programs that, like you said, I understand how college football works. There are usually 3 or 4 teams and everyone else, but there's more to the sport than just the national championship. That's why we love college football, the rivalries, the big wins. Like Wisconsin is playing on Saturday night against Penn State. Do I think Wisconsin's going to win? Probably not. If Wisconsin wins this game, that is literally like the dawning of a new era. Luke Fickell was the right hire. Everything is going well. That is a statement win that I will remember for years and years and years. That still matters. You know what I mean? Like that, I don't think
but the thing that bothers me, and it just like always is the same thing. Like we always arrive back at the same thing, Big Cat. And that is college football is special and meaningful and important for other things outside of the national championship race, which I wholeheartedly agree with you on. That's why I dedicated my life to covering it. So why do we have to mess with how we crown the champion to prove that? Like, that's the thing. The people who say college football is more important than the national championship are always the first ones who want to dick with the thing that is a mechanism for finding that. You know what I mean? Like that. Why can't you enjoy the Penn State Wisconsin win, whether it's a 14 field or not? No one's the championship field has no bearing on where you grow and earn joy from, does it? Like what? Why
but
can't
it
you
adds
that?
more. It adds more important games for programs. What's wrong with that? I guess
Snob.
I really just don't understand what's the downside. Is it that you have to work a little more?
Ari wants Alabama fans to feel like they've had their intestines ripped from their body.
Yes.
When Auburn returns the field goal for a touchdown, like he wants that level of catharsis
we all love to matter,
which doesn't exist anymore.
But that's still like with the flattening of the college football world, everyone in the SEC has 1 loss right now. If Alabama loses another game, their intestines are ripped out still. Right?
Yes.
Like that still is something that's happening. And we
are intact after the Vanderbilt game, which I hate.
I
want their intestines on the floor after that game. Like that game is like literally the poster child for what I think is wrong with it.
Okay,
now,
so
you might think I'm a loser though. So
no. But like, all right. So you're thinking about that game. What about LSU Texas A&M? Is that this weekend?
Yeah, that's this weekend, Saturday.
that game was going to mean nothing. Now it's an elimination game.
But
That's an
disagree with that.
elimination
It wouldn't
game.
have meant nothing. They would have
No.
been one-loss SEC teams. One would win and advance into the playoff. This is a playoff game in the 14 field. That's
No,
what this
I don't know.
is.
You think that one of
You don't
those
think a
two
one-loss team that wins this game and goes on to win the SEC would have made the 14 playoff? Are you crazy? Of course they would.
Okay, well, let's talk about who else? What other elimination games we have coming up? Ole Miss Georgia is an elimination game.
Like we even played the Alabama Tennessee is an elimination game card, and it wasn't. Like
All right,
really,
but
like,
Alabama
but it
now
kind of was because we
yeah.
think Alabama's going to lose again.
Yeah, and if Alabama did get eliminated in the fact that they're not going to get a bye now, and so now their road is going to be a lot more difficult. I don't know. I think the way I see it is you just added more like depth to the regular season, more storylines to the regular season. And again, this is going back to the fact that it's flattened out a little bit, so you have more upsets. And I love it. I think this has been an incredible college football season, and I think a lot of it has to do with the NIL and the transfer portal, but also the college football playoff and a lot of these teams feeling like they have a legitimate chance. Like, look, Wisconsin, like I said, they're playing Penn State this weekend. Wisconsin's not a very good team. They've looked good in the last 3 weeks. They played bad teams. Have I had a moment where I've been like, hey, we could still run the table and get into the college football playoff? Yeah. Would that be possible if we were in the 14 playoff? Absolutely not. They already would have been eliminated.
Yeah, there's hope. And I mean,
right.
Navy Notre Dame is a prime example. Navy Notre Dame this weekend is essentially a playoff elimination game that would have not meant anything in the grand scheme if not for this format. Yeah.
I just think it's going to be clunky for a little bit, but I love it. I think more teams always better. And would you say, if you said 24 teams, I'd be like, no, that's crazy. But 12 teams feels like the right amount. And it feels like we're going to get to decide it on the field, where you won't have a situation where a team gets left out or you have a team get hot at the end. Like, that's also part of it, is like we see it all the time in the NFL. A team gets hot at the end of the season. They're not a 1 or 2 seed and they can go and win a Super Bowl. Like, could that happen? Of course that could happen.
Well, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see if we actually do get to a place where an 8 or a 9 seed that's not just Georgia or Alabama on a down year can do it.
Even if it's Georgia or Alabama on a down year, that's still awesome.
Fun. That's still fun. That's still a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun.
I think that my whole thing is college football was special to me personally for a lot of different reasons. One was that feeling you get when a team is losing and everybody turns the channel to that game and that having a meaning.
That still happens. That still happened where Alabama and Vanderbilt. Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody watched it for sure. Like, I don't think that I ever worried that people would not watch. But we have gotten to a place in the world, I think, where like it's like offensive to be a loser. You know what I mean? Like, and it's okay to me. Like, if you're a loser, like there are losers and winners in the sport. And if you're a loser,
Arizona, Big Cat.
Yeah,
I grew up in SEC country where if you ain't first, you're last. Like, it always like it always amused when I first started doing national coverage, and because I had been an SEC team beat writer at a couple different papers for covering Tennessee, covering Florida, and my mom went to Alabama. My dad went to South Carolina. Like, so that was all I grew up with. Like, you either win the national championship or you suck. And like meeting Big Ten people who were like, we just want to go to the Rose Bowl.
All right, like, I don't like that. I know you're patronizing. I have a question because this actually just dawned in this just popped in my head. Ari, how much of your anger at the 12-team playoff is directed, whether you subconsciously or consciously, at James Franklin, the Penn State Nittany Lions?
I mean, it literally is the entire problem I have. So thank you for bringing it up. The thing that's it. So here, let me ask you this, Big Cat.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. So you have the most successful sports podcast on the face of the earth, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Anybody can buy a microphone and anybody can do what we do, right? Like, you can buy a microphone, you can talk into it, and you can hope people listen. So based on what you guys built there at Barstool and what your podcast has done and what we all strive to be, should everybody who does podcasting get paid the same? Like, this is the thing that I cannot stand.
Hey, Ari, we need a 12-team podcast playoff to have a chance.
Wait,
here.
But I'm saying, like,
PMT and Simmons
Penn State does not have to do anything to itself to strive for greatness anymore. We have lowered the bar to let them in.
Well,
and I think the entire world in America is about striving to achieve something. Do I want to make as much money as the most popular podcast in the world? Do we want us to be number one? Do I want us to be able to be next to you on the most top episode? Yeah, but we got to work for that shit. Like, we're not, no one's going to change
number 12.
for us.
Hold on.
I take number 12.
But the
We're
bar's
working for
gonna keep going up and up because Penn State will go to the playoff every year and they won't win a national championship. And if they don't win a national championship, Penn State, that will be their new problem. Like that, if you said, yeah, Penn State just wins a national championship under these new rules, yeah, that would be messed up. But they still have to perform on the field. So yeah, they got let in to a system that they probably were never going to get into, but they still have to go and win it. Like they in 5 years, if Penn State goes to the college football playoff every single year and gets bounced every single year, the new problem for James Franklin and Penn State will be they can't win the big one.
Well, that problem exists already.
That's true.
So,
yes.
And since
well,
that
they beat
problem
USC
exists already. Yeah. Well, I thought you said the big one. I wasn't sure what I might have not heard you there. Yeah. Okay. We'll see how that goes. But like, I don't know. Like, are we going to hang banners in State College because we make the playoff now for being
yes,
the
we had this
program that
discussion.
we've
Like,
been?
certain basketball teams hang Final Four banners and certain basketball teams hang national
I just think
championship
that if
banners.
you're a loser, like that's the whole point.
But
like, if
then
you're
we'll
a
make
loser,
fun
you
of
have to
them
be
for
better.
it. We'll make fun of them for it. Do you know what's in our office right now hanging up?
Yeah, I do. I listened to that episode.
It's
I do.
It's Jimmer. It's the Colts 2014 AFC finalist
Which is
banner.
incredible.
The actual
Incredible.
one that was in Lucas Oil Stadium is in our office hanging up. And what did we do? We made fun of it. So when Penn State does their banners saying we made the college football playoff 5 years in a row and didn't win anything, we will mock it and it will be funny. So I think what I actually think, Ari, the best way to like agree on this at the end is I understand your points. I think all your points will kind of get washed away as we get.
And I
deeper
hope
into
that's
this.
what happens.
Yeah.
Just honestly, I do hope. I hope that is what happens. And like honestly, I think that my strength as a podcaster / columnist is that when I am wrong, I'm very good at admitting it. So I hope that I get to the point where I have to be wrong on this. Because I do think that this getting amped up for the UNLV Boise game on Friday night is a great positive.
Yeah.
And I guess if the thing that we have given up is Alabama having its intestines all over the floor so that we can watch this game on Friday night and feel like it matters for the race, then there are some positives there. I just can't stand that in this world you can't just call a loser anymore. Like,
we still are. When Alabama loses in the 12-team playoff, we're going to call them losers. That's the thing is you just got to wait. I think the big thing with you is you just got to be patient. If you're patient, it's all going to work out.
Okay, I hope so. Our podcast is depending on it. So
going to just putting a bow on the whole thing, you do have to start thinking more like a businessman because 12-team playoff is way better for your podcast.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
See, what Ari hasn't noticed is that Big Cat has explained how every single thing involved with this can become a different piece of content.
Yeah.
We got to get our brains to like that.
Yeah, and that's true. Yeah,
That's how you take on the political podcast.
Yes.
And I really hope that the UNLV fans this week will turn off the Israeli-Palestinian conflict discourse.
Yes.
Give it a break for a few days and come over and listen to our show. So let's hope that's what happens.
They will.
Hey, Kat, before we let you go, I gotta ask about something we've been talking about this week. And it's something I'm calling the reverse Harbaugh.
Okay.
Who's got it worse than us? Nobody. So I'm going to give you 5 schools and you tell me who's got it worst right now. So we've got Auburn.
Okay.
We got Florida State. We got Michigan. We have Oklahoma and we have USC.
Okay. I'm going to throw out Michigan because my boss, Dave Portnoy, is going to get a quarterback, and I believe him when he says that. So I think Michigan has fuck you money. I don't know if you're allowed to swear on this podcast.
You are.
Beyond belief that I think people will slowly realize what happened this year. They sold it all for national championship last year.
Harbaugh, the timing of Harbaugh's exit cost them a chance to get a quarterback this year. This is a year zero situation.
Exactly. So Michigan's thrown out. I'm going to throw out USC just because I as much as Lincoln Riley can't get a defense together, and I thought they were a little bit better to start the season. It's still USC. Guys are still going to want to go play there. He's still a coach that's going to get a Heisman quarterback. So they'll get thrown out. Oklahoma's in a world of shit. It feels like a world of shit because they're now in the SEC, and that is going to be like when the stakes go up, you can't start bullying everyone in the Big 12 anymore. And they got the coaching hire wrong. Oklahoma feels like they're in a lot of trouble. And then what were the other two?
Auburn and Florida State.
Florida State's in a lot of trouble too because Mike Norvell. I mean, that's how much money do they owe? I mean, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
It'd be $70 million. There was a great message board post where they're like, "Hey, why don't the administrators at Florida State just go to Norvell and say, why don't we just agree to disagree and you go coach somewhere else?"
Right.
Like he would just leave $70 million on the table.
Okay, so I think Auburn might be Auburn's probably second to last. Oklahoma's last. Auburn's second to last because they're in a lot of trouble, and the same problem with the SEC. Florida State not in the SEC, and I know that people will say I'm biased here, but doesn't it feel like Florida State has the magic bullet if they need it, and it's to just get Deion Sanders?
Well,
Colorado's a lot better than people think.
Now?
Yeah, Colorado's a lot better than people think this year. Travis Hunter, I should legally say, should be Heisman. I know that he's got to get a couple more stats going, but I do have a 40-1 ticket on him, so I say it on every show I go on. But it does feel like you have that just hanging out there. And I don't know if Deion would want to go to Florida State. I know there was probably some bad feelings last time around when they had an opening. I don't know what he's going to do when Shedeur leaves, all this stuff. But at least you have the hope of, that guy could maybe fix it and bring us to the modern era. Whereas Auburn doesn't feel that way. Oklahoma really doesn't feel that way.
It's such a fascinating discussion. The reason I did this is because I put out a poll over the weekend, and I had Auburn, Oklahoma, and USC on it. And the Florida State and Michigan fans are like, why are you leaving us off of this?
Yeah. Michigan's not in the conversation. Michigan's not in the conversation. That's crazy to me. They just won a national championship. And again, they have so much money that will fix itself. Now, you could make the argument, did they get the coach right? I don't know. You got to give him more than 1 year. So that might be a little bit of a did he finally just sign his contract? So
he did sign it. Yeah,
maybe they could just tell him he never signed it and then they can go get a different coach. But yeah, Michigan's not in that conversation to me.
I am very excited to see what your boss does on that front, because I did like that he was part of the NIL deal was going to be a segment on Pardon My Take for every week, that he's going to make you interview this player every week.
Yes. Without telling me until he told me on the podcast that we were doing. I'm working on a quarterback for Wisconsin, so I'm getting my name in the mix as well. So
what's the
I'll send you some names. I got some FCS dudes. I'll send you some names.
Yeah.
When you're working on the quarterback for Wisconsin, like, are you just trying to find a Jim Sorgi clone, or like, how are you going about this? Like,
Jim Sorgi played a lot of years in the NFL, Ari.
That's what I'm saying. Like, are you looking for like a quarterback that fits into that mold of like the people who like cloned themselves for like 15 years? Or are you?
We had a lot of them. John Stockos, Scott Tolzien, Bart Houston. Yes. Yeah, they're Tyler Donovan.
And they're all the same person in my mind.
Yeah, they are. They all kind of wash together. No, I listen, I think we're going to find a good quarterback. We took, we've had bad luck the last 2 years. I don't know if Tyler Van Dyke was going to be the answer. He got hurt. I actually like Tanner Mordecai a lot. He got hurt. So we're going to find the answer. And listen, Braden Locke has been playing good ball. I know it's against bad teams, which thank God they beat the Rutgers, Purdue, Northwestern. That was a nice 3 weeks where I was so down on the Badgers, but it was a reminder that like, hey, as bad as you might feel, you're not that, and you'll never be that. So it was a nice like, awakening of like, yeah, all right, reality is here. Those are those guys. You're still not that.
We got to ask you one other thing, Andy.
Go ahead.
I know you got to go in a second. Have you looked at the board this week for college football, and what's your play of the week?
I have not. I've been so bad. You don't want my play of the week. I was the idiot who took Texas last weekend. So
there were a few of you.
So was Ari.
There were a few of you. Yeah.
I'm an
and
absolute
one of
moron.
us, I don't know about you, but I go down the live rabbit hole a lot. So if I think something is going to happen in a game, I won't acknowledge in my own head that I'm going to be wrong, and I'll hit it live 6 times. So I'll lose the same bet 6 times in a row in the same game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do that, but that's
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I had Texas -3.5, -5.5, +3, +6.5, +11.5, and +700, and those all went out the window on Saturday night.
I'll tell you one that I'm just looking at. I'll have to look at it more. I know Notre Dame has a good defense, but it's always tough to plan for the triple option. Navy's defense has not been very good, and they can score. So I might take the over in that game. 52. I know that's a crazy number but I took it. I think they're over under. Who do they play this week? Do they play Charlotte?
They played East Carolina.
East Carolina. I think it was like 57 was the over.
I'm sorry, Navy played Charlotte. You're right.
Yeah,
Army
yeah,
played
Navy-
East Carolina. Yeah.
So the Navy Charlotte over under was 57. I think it hit in like the middle of the third quarter because
Navy could have scored 100 in that game.
Yeah.
And the tricky part here is Navy's going to intentionally try to take possessions out of the game. Like they're 132nd in plays run.
Yeah.
This season.
But they're so efficient.
They are. But if Notre Dame's athletes are that much better than Navy's, then they're going to score quick. So that's where the over comes in.
Yeah. So maybe that one. But yeah, I'm so bad at gambling right now. You don't want any of my picks ever. It's a disaster. It's been a disaster season. I'm ready for college basketball.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. But I have a feeling we know more because I don't think Vegas has figured some things out. Like when the 13.5 Alabama Missouri line came out, I was like, they're not watching Alabama play.
Yeah.
So I think we're slowly getting there.
Yeah.
But Big Cat, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, boys. Anytime you need me to come on and school Ari, I'm more than
honestly, I'm happy that that's what happened today. Like I get to tell everybody that Big Cat came on, and the first 20 minutes of the segment were just him shitting on me. It's gonna be great.
Just start texting me whenever they make a change in college football. Just start texting me saying, "Is this good for podcasting business or not?" And I'll tell you. Because this is good. Everything's good.
This is good for podcasting business. You're right. I changed my mind. The 12-team playoff's the best thing that's ever happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Company man.
Ask yourself the question, how do I turn this into content?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
That is the great Big Cat. And Ari, he's muted. See, he's taking no lessons from this at all. Can't even unmute his mic.
What happens is when we put the guest on, it mutes my mic, and then I have to unmute it, and I always forget that step.
That's why producer River sends us a text saying, remember to unmute your mic, like 30 seconds before you need to unmute your mic.
Sorry, producer River, I let you down. Hey, the guy's got a gift. Like, he's just very entertaining. I listened back to that. I know we were a part of the conversation, but really appreciate that he was on. And, I was reading the comments during it, and, there are a lot of people
I read the comments too. The people who don't think this is going to be better just hate fun. Like Christopher Jordan in the chat, who's one of our regulars, said the first round games are going to be unnecessary. No, the first round games are going to be awesome. Like you're like, oh, I don't want 4 really good football games with do or die circumstances on campus. Like, who doesn't want that? It's like, no, please don't give me all that ice cream.
See,
please don't proposition me, Miss Venezuela. Like
we've got 53 minutes into this, so we can't start this over again. But the thing that irritates me about this discussion more than anything is that
you're so wrong.
You can be resistant to the 12-team field and still look forward to the games. Like I don't know where on earth I've ever said I'm not going to be
happening
excited
because of the field.
I understand, but I think that the thing that my stance has always been,
those games don't exist.
My stance has always been that those games exist in September, October, and November, but we're too stupid to realize
the games in September and October still exist.
They still exist, but they don't have. I mean, we don't have to do this again, but like
we don't because Big Cat came and blew you out of the water.
You can torch the discussion.
We got to pull up 12-team playoff, yes or no. 12 yes is destroying no. Like people who fear change and hate fun don't get it.
But I don't.
And they'll get it when the games are happening. They're like, oh God, boy, I was really stupid about this.
I love change and fun.
You clearly don't. because you're arguing against it. So, all right. One thing we can all agree upon. Games are a little more fun when you're playing Prize Picks during the game. Download that app. Use the code Staples. Play $5. Get $50 instantly. By the way, you still have time to get that almost free Ant-Man square as the NBA season begins. That's Anthony Edwards. The Timberwolves play the Lakers tonight. If he scores a point, then you win that square. That's how you play Prize Picks. You pick squares. You pick at least 2, and the more you pick, the higher the potential payout. So, you could do kind of a 5 square play for $5, and win or lose, you're going to get that $50 to play instantly. But if you win, you're going to have a little more to play with. So give it a shot. And remember that Ant-Man Square is out there for you. The college football board is being populated. There are college football games tonight, Wednesday. There's a great Thursday night game that we will be talking about next. We're going to be picking the Pitt Syracuse game. So download that PrizePicks app. Use the code Staples. Play 5. Get $50 instantly. Just have a little fun with it. All right. We do need to talk about this Thursday night game. One of my favorite time in the calendar is when the ACC starts putting fun games on Thursday nights. I worried when the NFL came back to Thursday night that we were going to lose this forever, but the ACC has kind of brought this back, and Syracuse at Pitt is a great game because both of these teams are so much better than they were last year. Syracuse, we kind of expected to get better. I don't know if we expected to get this much better this fast, but we thought they'd be pretty good. Pitt has been a very pleasant surprise, but Pitt's schedule is about to get gnarly, and it starts being gnarly this week with the Cuse. Ari, what do we think about this game?
My gut feeling on this game is that it's really, really hard to go undefeated, and Pitt getting Syracuse at home is probably a good thing, but I think that this might be the spot where Pitt trips.
Well, so here's the thing. Pittsburgh is kind of a middle of the road defense, and Syracuse is a very good offense. So the question is, can Eli Holstein and the Panthers offense keep pace with Kyle McCord? Because that's really what it comes down to. Because so far they've kind of done just enough in some of these games. But if you look, like, they beat Cincinnati by 1. Okay, Cincinnati's a good team. Cincinnati might be the best team they've played so far. They hung in there against Cal. Well, Cal gave Miami all kinds of problems, and they certainly held Cal to a much lower point total than Miami did. So we think that Pitt is better on both sides of the ball, but this will be a great test. And you saw that schedule. Syracuse, SMU, Virginia, Clemson, Louisville. Like, they've got to keep playing well, because there's also a universe where they're 6-5 at the end of that stretch. So
yeah,
this is going to be a really good test. And they're a 5.5 point favorite in this game. I'm actually a little surprised it's that high.
Yeah, it is pretty high. And let's give Syracuse some credit too. Now, I understand they lost to Stanford in a pretty ugly game. Maybe a personnel decision at the end away from winning. But beating UNLV, I think, is a pretty impressive win. Like, more impressive than people give Syracuse credit for. And I think that as a result of losing to Stanford, maybe rightfully so, but Syracuse has now gone into being underappreciated as a team this year. Like, I'm not saying they're going to go win the national title, but this isn't going to be an easy game. I was certainly surprised to see that Pitt was laying 5.5. I get it. It's at home. I think Syracuse is going to score in this game, Andy, and I think they're going to score.
What do we feel about that 61.5 number? I think it's going over that.
Yeah. I think that Syracuse is probably going to get into the 30s or 40s in this game. I really do think that they're
I think Pitt's going to be able to score on them a little bit too. One person pointed out while Big Cat was on, in a reply to one of my tweets, they said, in the old system, Eli Holstein would just be sitting in Alabama. Like and I'm talking about the old system where you had to sit out a year after you transferred as an undergrad. But I mean, that's a huge difference, because Pitt got the quarterback wrong a couple times in a row. And all of a sudden we're like, what the hell is going on with that program? What happened to Pat Narduzzi? Well, you get the quarterback right, and suddenly everything seems easier.
Yeah. We are not that far removed from this being an undefeated matchup, too. So, like, the thing that I think is kind of funny, and I don't know if you're reading the chat as you're talking, but I am. I'm perpetually trapped by comments and feedback. There are a few people who are like, what's the over-under attendance going to be in this game? 15,000? Who cares? Like, people are downplaying the game. And it's like, you can't be pro-expansion and then shit on these games. Like, this game is legitimately going to... Is this not every bit as important to the playoff as some of the other games we just talked up? Like,
This is very important to the playoff. This is an undefeated ACC team.
Yeah, 2. Oh, 1.
Yeah.
1. Sorry, Stanford.
One. Syracuse has a loss,
Sorry,
but
it's going to take 3 years to figure that one out for me.
Yeah, but it's okay. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, Stanford lost. Oh, yeah, exactly. But it is a fun game. And look, I don't know how to explain this to people. It's not necessarily for the people who would be in the stands at Pitt on a Thursday night in the middle of the work week. It's for the people at home watching on TV. They're like, it's Thursday. There's good football on. And let's be real here. The NFL's given us some stinkers on Thursday night of late. Like last week's Broncos Saints game sucked. So
yeah,
if college football can give us a good game that people might want to either turn away from the NFL game or put it on the second screen, like this is, I predict this will be a much more fun game than the NFL game on Thursday night.
You know, and I have actually fallen guilty at times, Andy, to like being comparative between the two. Like, I understand that the NFL is a very popular enterprise and whatever, but like, I think that this game, based on the, way that the sport is set up and the way that both of these teams have performed, the Syracuse Pitt game is more interesting just as a consumer than watching the Vikings and the Rams. Now, it's a wonderful new world where you can have an iPad fully healthy, and the game open.
Then maybe, but like, this doesn't seem like a real good game. Yeah.
I'd rather, if I could only pick one game to watch, I would rather watch this than the NFL game. Now, maybe I'm in the minority here, or not in the minority in this room, but maybe in the country because of fantasy football and all that stuff. But this matchup's important. It's an important matchup. We have to give it a time.
I think you're in the minority because the NFL is just bigger, but I do think there are going to be people who look at both of these as an option and say, I want the Syracuse Pitt. Yeah. And I'm so glad college football hasn't completely abandoned Thursday night, because this is what I want on my Thursday night.
Yeah, I love like a 60-day run of football every night.
Yeah,
which is great.
55 days. And it goes until the night before Thanksgiving is our next football-less night. But it is going to be a lot of fun, this game. I think I'm going to go with Syracuse. You're going to give me 5.5 points. I'll take the Cuse.
Somebody tweeted at us earlier that I get cute and pick money line a lot, but I think I'm going to go Cuse and the points and money line. Can I just do both? Because you got to sprinkle both.
Go for it.
Like
100%.
Full unit on +5.5, half unit on money line.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Yeah, you're still mad about that guy that tweeted us this morning about me taking the Auburn points spread. You taking the Auburn money line last week.
Auburn money line last week, great bet. Like, you're not going to hit all of them, but like that was the right side. So like whatever, it didn't hit, but like this is a show, and if you want to take a stab at something. And I'm going to tell you, like I told my friends on Friday night, like Oklahoma State money line was a really good spot on Friday night. It didn't turn out to hit, but if you're a live person, you can get in there early, get 2-1 or +175, and then find a middle ground in there. That's fun. So like I think Syracuse is going to be in this game or winning in the second half, and you will have an opportunity there to do that if you were to take the money line. So that's my prediction on the game.
I'm also excited to see Pitt during this stretch to see if this is if this is because of the schedule they played before, or if this is real. Because if Pitt comes out of this next stretch, going into the season finale at Boston College, I feel comfortable with Pitt there. But if they come out of this stretch and they're sitting there with 9 wins, or they're sitting there with 8 wins, that's a great season.
Yeah,
given the circumstances, Dion rating their defensive ends, and
that win over West Virginia was electric. Like, I hope that if you were watching the show, you saw the ending to that. If not, go watch it on YouTube. It was incredible. We were in Wisconsin, And there was a lot happening that day. That was the night that we thought Billy Napier could get fired when, Florida was losing. Yeah. But I had it on the iPad while I was working in the other room, Andy, and I was like dying in there. So it was incredible. Pitt's been a resilient team. And certainly if they win this game, I think that kind of changes the chemistry for me, at least on bracketology and bubble watch on Sunday, because this would be listen, Syracuse beating UNLV, I think, is a legitimizing win. I don't know if I'm overstating that. Do you think I'm overstating that?
I think we need to see Boise State UNLV this weekend to figure that out. But here's the thing. Pitt and SMU are probably going to have their say in the ACC race. We're looking at my bracketology projection right now, and I've got Clemson and Miami both in the playoff. That will depend on, Clemson plays Pitt, and then SMU plays Pitt as well. So the
I might be there,
SMU
man.
game is next weekend.
I might be
Dallas.
there, in Dallas.
Yeah.
That's a pretty important game. And if they both win this week and they're undefeated in the ACC together, that would be quite the show there, because SMU has a very advantageous path to the ACC championship game. And I saw somebody at the beginning of the year saying that ACC champion SMU at 15-1 was an attractive play, and it's starting to come to fruition. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, and I think we got snowed when they lost to BYU because we didn't know what BYU was yet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And now we do, and it's oh wait, they were in that game against BYU at the very end.
Objectively terrible start to the season too. They started with Preston Stone and have made a move.
Figure out the Kevin Jennings, Preston Stone question
hurt a little bit. So that has been, they've had some weird games with some bad turnovers and stuff, but I think once they poured it on TCU, that's kind of when they took off. So very interesting team to track this year.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this. And again, this is what's popping up. We got the seafood tower of appetizers this week because we have Syracuse Pitt on Thursday night. We have Boise State at UNLV on Friday night. We also have Rutgers USC on Friday night, which, by the way, Fox could not have set that up any better, because remember, the game was set up this way to be after a World Series game, with Fox having no idea who would be playing in the World Series. But it is going to be the Yankees and the Dodgers, followed by...
That worked out pretty well for Major League Baseball, didn't it?
A team from the tri-state area against a team from LA in football.
Yeah. Well, which one's more important? I'll let you decide. But
Rutgers USC, of course.
So I got into this argument with my friends in the group chat on Saturday night because they were texting me about the Yankees Guardians game that was happening during the Georgia-Texas game. And maybe I'm just a terrible businessman, as we found out on the show today. But what is with the MLB viewing window decisions? Do they just have no choice because there's football on every night and they just are going to go at night? But don't you think that game should have been at noon when it wasn't going against the game of the week? I don't it's just they're constantly competing, because I am interested in the Major League Baseball playoffs. I like watching it, but I'm never going to choose to watch it over a football game.
So MLB operates as if no other sport exists. I think the NBA understands football as a thing that exists and kind of tries to work around it. Now, obviously, it doesn't when the NBA gets to crunch time, it doesn't overlap, so they don't have any real competition.
Yeah,
but MLB, if you look at how they do a lot of things, where they schedule certain games, the release of awards winners, where it'll just come out at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night randomly. That's who won the MVP. Oh, cool. They don't seem to have any sense that you've got to be strategic about this stuff. And I do wonder why that is. Is it because, they were America's game for 100 years, and then the NFL didn't really become ascendant and college football didn't overtake it until the last 20 or so years. I don't know, but it is fascinating to me.
More about
the decisions they make are totally siloed. It's like these other football doesn't even exist.
But I think I saw that the Georgia Texas game had north of 10 million viewers on Saturday night. And I have no concept of this because I don't cover baseball or pay attention to it. But were more people watching Georgia and Texas or Yankees Guardians? There were more eyeballs on the football game, right?
Well, yes, and last now I think this World Series, because the two markets that are in it, the two teams that are in it, will do good numbers. But the average number of viewers for a World Series game last year was 9 million.
Okay.
So a good college football game is gonna beat that, and a bad NFL game is gonna beat that.
Which is why the conferences are blowing up and the television deals are so important, because that's where the cash is at. So I just thought it was weird. I don't know if you could ever play a World Series game in a weird time slot because it's the World Series. I'm not saying move it to placate football, but I do think that like their viewer windows for like the playoffs are bizarre.
Yeah, it is very strange, because anytime you're going prime time against great college football or the NFL, I just don't see and see some of these games on FS1. Like when I see a college football game on FS1, I'm like, somebody's not feeling very important. And because like the USC Maryland game was on FS1 because Colorado Arizona was on Fox, and I was like, wow, USC. Not feeling it. They put this on FS1, and then they're putting whole ass like baseball playoff games on FS1.
Yeah. So the World Series is a whole different animal, but yeah, just the thought to wrap this up.
Well, one more thing we do have to get to, because I sent this in the chat in our group chat last night, and you just I knew what it would do. Jackson Arnold named the starter for the Ole Miss game. Brent Venables did that on his radio show, which is exactly the same place he named Michael Hawkins Jr. the starter for the Auburn game when they made the change last time. I don't think it matters. Producer River pointed out that this announcement did not move the line even one iota overnight. I think they could put one of us at quarterback and it wouldn't move the line, because I don't think they can block Ole Miss, just like I didn't think they could block South Carolina.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about my analysis of this situation. So we've talked about this quite a bit. I understand in theory why you moved to Hawkins, but through the first, 60% of the season, you benched your future to decide that he's the better option in October. Like, is that what ultimately
are you
happened
assuming?
here?
But you're assuming Jackson Arnold's the future. I'm not. Like,
yeah. We don't know yet. He hasn't played enough.
All parties are going to have to make their decisions after the season. And I'm talking, of course, about Jackson Arnold. I'm talking about Michael Hawkins Jr. And I'm talking about Brent Venables when he hires a new offensive coordinator. And it may be that the new OC wants to bring in a different quarterback.
I know, but why do you make this move right now? Why do you go back to him? Do you think he's
because
better?
You're trying to win games, and you already burned his red shirt. So at this point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm just like, I think that if you're trying to win games, that means that you think that Jackson Arnold gives you a better opportunity to do so, right? So
no, you think that something different like this. We're in the realm of symbolic gestures. We're in the realm of symbolic gestures for Oklahoma, because I'm not sure there's anything that you can do that will actually help you move the football. But if you keep tinkering with things, maybe you luck into something. Because now you got a new play caller in Joe John Finley and a different quarterback in Jackson Arnold. Maybe that combination does something. I don't think it will. Because again, if you can't block, it doesn't really matter.
They have a decision to make at the end of the year about who to keep or what the future of the quarterback position is going to look like. It could be neither of them, depending on how things go. But my understanding of what they thought of Jackson Arnold coming into the year, and what we thought of Jackson Arnold through the last 2 years, that you'd probably want to let him play more than 3 full games before you make that decision. That's all I'm saying. So, like, if
you're going to, congratulations, you win.
No, I know. So, yeah, which made the move initially bizarre, and now I think this is bizarre. Like, I think the whole thing is bizarre.
Yes, it's bizarre when a team that is one of the best teams in college football history, historically, best programs in college football history, just decided not to recruit high school offensive linemen for a couple of years, and now they're paying for it.
Yeah,
like that's
so. Then let your quarterbacks walk the door because of your offensive line, and then watch them be awesome somewhere else without giving them an opportunity to show that they can do it. It's crazy.
Well, and we talked about having a recurring segment called Rules for College Football and Rules for Life. Like Rules for College Football, one of, and this may be my number one rule for college football: if your offensive line sucks, you suck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. If your offensive line's awesome, it actually takes care of a lot of other things, even if you're not awesome everywhere else.
Yeah. You are right about the offensive line. There's no argument here. And I kind of feel bad for both the quarterbacks because neither of them have been given a fair shake.
Well, you keep trying to come up, you keep trying to use logic on the quarterback situation when logic doesn't apply because there's nothing they can do.
Your offensive line does stink, and no matter who you put back there is going to have a hard time. But I don't know if what they've done with an unchangeable situation in the middle of the year is the way I would have gone about doing it. Like,
I don't
you
think
change
it matters.
the quarterback when you think the quarterback. I do. I think that Jackson Arnold has not had enough runway given what we thought he was.
Well,
as a
good
player.
news, Ari. He's starting this week, so he get more runway, and he might get run over by Jared Ivey.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah,
that's the problem. Unfortunately, whoever they put back,
all I'm saying is they gain nothing from making a quarterback change.
They gain nothing from pretty much anything because unless they start blocking, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, and that's, this is, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. I had a column called The Reverse Harbaugh. We asked Big Cat about it. You heard that. If you want to go read that at On 3, I did it a little bit differently. So basically, who's got it worse than us? Nobody. 5 different schools. I had 3 that I did a poll on the other day, and I had people who were fans of these other 2 writing in saying, hey, how come you didn't include my school? So it is Auburn, it's Oklahoma, it's Michigan, it's Florida State, and it's USC. And so I did not just the reverse Harbaugh for this season. I did a short-term reverse Harbaugh and a long-term reverse Harbaugh because those are 2 different things. And because Oklahoma, I actually feel like can be okay long-term, but is in just hell short-term. And I think that's the key here is you got to figure out what do you do? How do you fix it long-term? And Florida State, meanwhile, they're in hell now, but they might be in hell longer. So we can talk about that tomorrow. Your pal, Doug Maurice, is going to join us from the Kings of the North podcast. He's going to tell us why SEC football stinks. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. You have been a master manipulator of this show. You bring people on, you bring on topics that you know are going to inflame and enrage me, right?
Mm-hmm.
My turn.
Oh, this isn't going to enrage me.
Oh, it is.
It's a great business model. We live in a world where people's feelings supersede objective facts, and if you cater to their feelings, you might build an audience.
Whoa! See, you're already fired up. All right, well, we're gonna
there
see.
You go.
We're gonna see. Well, he is a very good arguer. So get ready. I think you guys are gonna argue. I'm gonna stay off to the side, but I think it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna record that.
Yeah, I got my break with Big Cat. He started talking, and I let you 2 go.
Your turn.
So,
yeah, no, I mean, it's been really thrilling to go off into the day with the most famous, recognizable sport podcaster on earth just taking a dump on me for 15, 20 minutes. So that's going to be a good day for me. But I hope Doug can return the favor to you. We'll see how it goes.
Like a champ.
Yeah, I'm not going to go down like a sissy. I mean, like, come on. Like, I feel a certain way, and you don't have to agree with it. I'm not going to, just because he's famous, what am I going to do?
I mean, the bigger problem for you is he's right, and you're wrong. Yeah. So that's the only issue.
Whatever, bud. Whatever.
I love you, Ari.
I love you too.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. It is Wednesday. Wendy's Saucy Take Wednesday. I am in charge of the Saucy Takes tomorrow. So Ari will be the judge. And of course, Doug Maurice from Kings of the North will tell us why he thinks the SEC stinks.